Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Victoria and Kimberly show here on YouTube, where we get together and talk about all the crazy stuff happening on the planet right now, esoteric stuff, metaphysical stuff, energy stuff, religious stuff, political stuff, all the crazy things that are happening right now. We chat about it and answer your questions, honestly, because I know a lot of you have all these perplexing questions on your minds, and we do our best to try to talk about things that we know you want to know about, and there are things we want to know about too. So, and we have a lot of interesting conversations off camera, so we decided to bring a lot of those onto the camera because all of our conversations seem to be things that all of you are also interested in. So we welcome you all back. And so today, what are we talking about? I know we talked about several ideas of things, but like this morning, just everybody feeling frustrated. Like I'm feeling super angry and frustrated right now with the fact that I was expecting a lot of political things and a lot of truth to already have come out by now. It was supposed to come out months ago, honestly. And it's just been dragging out and dragging out and dragging out. And if you followed Charlie Ward or 107 or any of these truthers out there, they kept saying, oh, this is going to happen in this month and this is going to happen by that month. And then you keep expecting it and nothing happens. And then I'm sitting here and I'm just totally frustrated because nothing's changing. They're still rolling out tons of those poisonous, needle things in the arm, the sticky things. And they're still rolling those out to the planet, and nothing's being stopped. Nothing's changing. Their whole depopulation agenda is still in play. It's just like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's really frustrating. So I was kind of tuning into this yesterday. I was like, did we get put back on the bad timeline again? What the AG double tooth books? Like, and the energy felt kind of different. I'm on the 29th. I woke up feeling almost melancholy, almost like tears, and didn't even know why. And I think part of that is, as you and I know, that part of that's the collective grief that humanity is feeling right now, and that collective frustration. And I think that's part of what you and I have been feeling as well. Is and Spirit told me back in January that things would start to happen by the end of April, and then we had other people predicting that things would happen by the end of May, and here we are. Nothing like any of the big stuff we expected to have happen. And so I tuned in this morning after you and I had that little frustration this morning. So I think yesterday my husband took my 15-year-old to get and it was his choice. He kind of won't let him back into high school without it. And so I just told him, I said, you know what, I don't want any part of it. If either of the kids come down with long-term side effects, I don't want that on my guilty conscience. So, because he had asked me if I would take him, and I said, no way, no. You can do that, and then if there are side effects, then you get to deal with that. But I'm not going to support that choice.
It's like my husband got it, and he talked my son who's at college into getting it. The two of them went and got it. They got both. They've talked my daughter in, and now she wants to go get one. And, doctors all over the world are saying that they're testing their patients afterwards and saying that they're totally infertile now. They can never have children. So they're basically going to depopulate the whole planet with this thing. And it's not being stopped. And what really, really blows my mind is 107. I listened to his video the other day, and he's sitting there and saying, he was interviewed by Nicholas Benyamin, and Nicholas was saying, what was Nicholas saying? He was talking to him about these things and the depopulation, and he didn't seem to have his answer. I didn't like his answer. Like, he didn't have anything positive to say about whether or not this is going to be stopped, or it's like it's just being allowed to just happen. And then he made a comment that, oh, they won't ever allow it. They won't ever make it mandatory. So don't worry about that. That's a lie, because all over the US, there's schools that are making it mandatory, companies that are making it mandatory. And he was saying basically, oh, that won't be a thing, that you will be prevented from going to work, or you'll be prevented, that they won't allow it, like whoever won't allow it, or, he made some kind of comment about that. Maybe I was listening wrong. I don't know. Maybe my brain heard what it wanted to hear, but I swore I heard him basically say, oh, they will never allow it to be mandatory in any means whatsoever. But yet I have all kinds of friends working in companies where the companies said, if you don't get it, you can't come back to work. Or or their kids' schools said, if your kid doesn't get it, they can't come back to school. So they are making it mandatory everywhere. So
well, the case with, for example, I my daughter also, now she had the first one. I think she's going this week to get her second one.
Right.
Again, they both know that I don't support that. But
Right.
but the college is kind of making it. So what they're telling kids now is that if you want to come back on campus, you have to have it. You can continue to homeschool. So but they're making that option. But homeschooling is not very effective.
No.
Education. My son's been basically teaching himself for the past year. It's an online school. The teacher's never present. He checks in with the teacher for a half hour every morning.
Yeah.
He's teaching himself on his self-study program, and he's getting no socialization at all,
which is very bad.
Very unhealthy.
That's very unhealthy.
So that's the choice is, you can choose to not take it, but then you're not allowed back on campus.
Yeah.
And so I tuned in this morning, and I told you earlier, I sat with that. I'm like, okay, guys, like, okay, Yeshua and Saint Germain, you guys, and come on, source. I want to know why this is taking so long. And as I mentioned to you on the phone, the response that came in, and I think I shared this with you a couple of days ago, it's what I was seeing was a drip system, where instead of flooding the planet with all of this information at once, it's being dripped. And so what was being shown this morning is that the intent is for all of this information to be dripped out across the planet enough that when it does come out on mainstream, it's not a surprise. It's not shocking. And so right now we might be calling it, conspiracy theory or false news, and whatever name people are using for it. But when it does come out in the mainstream, it won't be a shocking surprise to humanity, because this has been dripped out so much. That's the impression that I got this morning, is that, and I just keep hearing, just trust the plan, because we do have this very, very finely tuned plan on the side of God and the guardians. And the intent, as I was told years ago, was to make it as chaos free as possible. Not that there won't be chaos, because we know that chaos is part of the rebirthing process, but to keep it as chaos free as possible. So if this information, for example, I showed you that something my teenage daughter saw from TikTok a couple of days ago.
Okay.
It was about the children's bodies that were found, right?
Right.
This is going out across TikTok to the younger generation. The younger generation is hearing about all this. The other thing my daughter told me a couple of days ago is, Mom, did you know that dandelions can cure heart disease? I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. So this younger generation is getting all of that information along with the false narrative as well. So when the full truth of it comes out, this younger generation will be like, oh, okay. Because they actually are seeing both sides of the story. They just don't know that they are. And I think that's the case, like across the planet in general, where people are getting enough of the whole story. Right now, it doesn't look like it's the truth, but when the truth comes out, it won't be as shocking as it would be otherwise.
Wow. You know what really blew me away is Tarot by Janine Margeau. Who's just amazing. All of her readings are 100% dead on, and she's just a beautiful soul. I've interviewed her before. I want to have her back on my channel, hopefully. I know she's crazy busy, But she did a reading about the children's bodies that were found at the school. And apparently there's a whole bunch of Native American, Native Canadian, whatever, indigenous survivors of that whole thing who are basically talking about how they were, abused in really horrific ways. We're not going to even say on here because it makes me want to barf.
Right.
So they had horrific things done. A lot of them were trafficked. The kids would just go missing. They trafficked them. The Queen came to visit in that same area. The Queen and her lovely husband, who just supposedly passed, which I don't believe that. I think he's been off the earth plane for a while. The Queen and her husband came, and they supposedly gave them 10 children as a gift, and they went off on a picnic in the woods supposedly, and then the kids never returned again. The Queen and her husband supposedly took the 10 children from there on. This was in Kamloops, British Columbia, the same place where all this went down. The Queen came for a visit. They gave them 10 children as like a sacrifice gift, I guess you can say, or who knows what horrors they did to those children. And as Janine calls it, the party drug that they make, that they use those children for and all that, God only knows. But, and the fact that that school was run by a Christian or Catholic organization. And if you look at all of these Catholic orphanages and places where they have children, terrible atrocities happen to those kids. And they found a grave with 35,000 bodies of, I think, babies and children in Ireland under a church or cathedral or school or something like that, whatever. I guess it was a Catholic church. So this so-called Christian church, which is really the Church of Lucifer, has been sacrificing and abusing children for almost 2,000 years. And it's just, it's horrific. It's horrific.
Yeah. And I think what's going to start happening is again, people coming out, and two things I think we're going to start seeing. People who are going to start coming out and telling their true stories. I think we are at the age of true stories. And I mean, I've been hearing that for a couple of years, but now I think we're finally entering that time when true stories are going to start being the stories that are told. And that's why shows like mine and yours are so important, because this is the only way the truth is going to come out, isn't from the tunnel diggers or the exposers, the truther community, not that way, but through individuals telling their true stories. And the other thing Spirit was showing me yesterday is I think we're going to start seeing a ton of lawsuits, because that is the only language these massive corporations understand. They only understand it when it hits their pocketbooks. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot of class action lawsuits where the people are going to come together and doing these massive corporations. I think we're going to start seeing small companies who have been absorbed by these big companies start to sue their parent companies. We're going to start seeing a ton of lawsuits. And that's another way for it to be exposed without it coming from a controlled narrative that we're presently in.
Yeah, well, it needs to happen that way because we know that Monsanto and Dow have been poisoning people in America and Canada and all over the world for a very long time. We know that these big companies like the big furniture, Wayfair and Amazon and all that are trafficking, they're using their websites to traffic kids. They have cabinets listed for $20,000 with the name of some kid that happens to be missing. Come on, it's ridiculous. And there's a post going around Facebook that lists all the CEOs of all the major companies, even companies like T-Mobile, Body and Bath Works, all these different companies all stepped down at the same time. Microsoft, all these different companies, all the major companies, all the CEOs all stepped down. Well, if you watch, I can't remember whose channel, I want to say it was Michael Jaco or somebody like that, who was one of those people who were saying that all of those CEOs are hiding out on Mars on their base right now. And they have like clones here running the show because they don't want to be executed in tribunals because they're going to be snatched and put through tribunals and probably executed for crimes against humanity, and they don't want to be caught. So they're hiding out supposedly on a Mars base.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that.
I don't know if that's true. I just heard it. I don't know if it's true.
I know that since 2019, there have been hundreds and hundreds of CEOs who have retired, yeah. Which is, and we.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, well, they've
unbelievable.
What Spirit was showing me last December was that they were being removed from their positions. That they would, and I needed to explain this after the fact. What Saint Germain was saying, that they would mysteriously disappear. And so people thought that meant they would just disappear from the planet. I'm like, no, they will just kind of disappear into oblivion, into has-beens. They just won't ever hear about them again. Yeah. And so where they are, these are people who won't even be missed.
Well, they're all part of trafficking. They're all involved in trafficking children. They probably all do adrenochrome, or some of them, at least some of them do adrenochrome. They're all involved with all the elites. They're all basically a bunch of cabal puppets, they're all have their little strings attached, and they're being played like little, puppets. And they're just a bunch of idiot psychopaths as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah. So one of the things that I was being shown is that, because, over the last 5 years, the corporate empires have basically been taking over the planet. It obviously wasn't before that. It's been very, very slow. And I kept asking, well, why aren't the antitrust laws working? Because we have antitrust laws that specifically are created to prevent these kinds of corporations from existing. And my understanding is that because of the way the international system works, that our antitrust laws only work with companies here in the US. If they're absorbing companies from around the world, it doesn't apply. That's why they've gotten so big. And I think what we're going to start to see, when more and more people who choose to, because you're going to see stores who won't let people come in unless they have the V card, and that there are going to be a lot of people who will just then choose to not do business with them, and they'll go business elsewhere. And a lot of those businesses, I think, are going to start going out of business because so many people will be boycotting them. Right. And what I think we'll start to see is that those regulations are coming down from their parent companies. And these smaller companies, I think, are going to start suing their parent companies for loss of business and loss of transactions. And they are going to want to be set free from their corporate empires.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that most of those businesses will be in areas that are very liberal, because like in the area where I live, which is very conservative, we're talking everybody has a gun in their house and has a Mr. T sign in their front yard. I live in a very conservative area. The stores around here would all be shut down in one day if they tried something like that, because everybody would walk out. I would say majority of the people in my area are refusing to take that poke. They won't take it. So I would say that everybody would go out of business in my area. So I would think that kind of thing would be really prevalent in areas where there's a lot of liberals. It's going to be really popular.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, because the area that I live in, it's getting better though. Only about 50% of the people now bother to wear a mask when they're out and about. But it's or have already taken them, right? So I think there's going to be, once there are financial implications, I think we'll start to see more and more of the truth coming out. And it's going to be coming out not through the truth or communities, but through mainstream media and through businesses who are no longer willing to tolerate it. So yeah, I think that's going to be a big part of it. Is, and the other thing too, I saw a couple of days ago, you might have seen on both Charlie and Nicholas were talking about this, the possibility right now they're telling people they have to, in order to travel.
Yeah.
And then it may turn around and be completely the opposite, because so many people are developing blood clots and side effects that insurance, that the airlines don't want to be responsible for that. May, by the end of the summer, be the other way around. The only people who haven't received this will be the ones who can fly. And then the airlines end up suing the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, I was a travel expert and a travel agent for a long time. I had a travel blog for a long time. And what I do know is, like, when I fly, I wear compression socks, because flying actually increases your risk of blood clot by a huge amount, for many different reasons. I'm not going to go into all the details about that right now. But the thing is if you're already at risk when you fly of getting a blood clot, and then you're at risk of getting a blood clot by taking the poke, the two mixed together, basically everybody's going to be kicking the bucket like no tomorrow, and winding up in hospitals. And eventually this is going to be a crap festival. I mean, it's going to be a disgusting disaster what they're doing by making people, because all these people that are like, woohoo, I got my poke and now I can fly all over the world. They're all excited about it. Well, when they wind up in a coffin because they got a blood clot that went to their brain and caused an aneurysm, or went to their lung or their heart, or they're in the hospital and they're on blood thinners the rest of their life, they're not going to be so excited about the fact that they got their poke. I mean, that's the argument I'm having with my husband right now, because he's like, oh, I want to, because we both are really into world travel, and he's like, I'm going to leave you at home, because I'm getting my, I got my poke and you're not getting it, and so I'm going to travel all over and leave you at home because you won't be able to travel. And I'm like, we'll see who wins this.
It might end up being the other way around.
Yeah.
So but that'll devastate the entire travel industry. And so what do these corporations, the only recourse these corporations have is to go sue the other corporations who caused the mess to begin with. Yeah. So I really think, and what Spirit was showing me about a year ago, is that the only way this is really going to get brought out into the open is through lawsuits. And I was reading another one this morning where all of the employees of a hospital are now suing the hospital.
Yeah, I believe it. And you know what? Yeah. You know what blows me away is I have so many friends who work in the medical industry, and every one of them refused to take, because I worked in the medical industry for a long time, and I'm friends with so many doctors, nurses, and I'm talking in the allopathic. Okay, we know that the natural medicine people are no way in hell going to take that thing. I know a few that are. Because they're not awake. Okay. Right. But the majority of the holistic doctors and holistic people won't take it. But then there's a lot of allopathic practitioners who refuse to take it. In fact, I'm hearing as much as 55% of the medical people in the hospitals and the healthcare system refuse to take that thing because they don't want to be a guinea pig for an experimental drug.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen that as well, because my background is in the medical field as well. I don't know if you knew that I had a medical company for 15 years. And that it's split about 50-50. My dentist, for example, not getting it, hygienist is. So even within the same office, there's that well, I'm choosing to not put that in my body, and I'll accept the consequences of not putting that in my body, when the hygienist is all woohoo, excited, I got them both, right? And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out later, when the cold and flu season hits again. And then also, how companies are going to start suing each other, because again, it is the only language these corporations understand is lawsuits. So I think we're going to start seeing just a boatload of them. Yeah, just lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. It's going to be, the legal industry and court system is going to be tied up for a really long time. That's going to be disaster. So I have a question for you. My thing is, okay, and a lot of people don't understand this, that when you're a psychic, clairvoyant, blah, 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 when you do the work that you and I do,
you can't see your own issues or like your family members. And it's that thing, like you can't see the nose on your face. So
Right.
I can predict really accurately for everybody else except me and my family members, my immediate. So I keep getting ganged up on by my husband, my daughter, my sister-in-law, one of our best friends, who all are into the pokey thing, and they gang up on me, and they all keep telling me, "You're going to get so you're going to get it, and you're going to die." And then they're telling me, "Oh, eventually every person on the entire earth is going to have this thing. Everybody on the earth is going to have it." Okay. Do you believe that? Because I don't, because I know people who have never been sick a day in their life with anything. Okay. I know people who rarely get sick with things. I know people who, like myself, when I used to get the FLUJAB, every time I'd get it, I'd come down with it. And then when I stopped getting it, I never got it again. And I don't get sick. And so they're sitting there and telling me in my face all the time, "You're going to get, if you don't get this thing, you're going to eventually get it and wind up in the hospital or wind up dead or blah, 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 blah." Do you believe that? Because I don't believe that, because I don't, it's kind of like when the bubonic plague went around the earth back in, what was it, the 15, 16, whenever that was, 1700s. When it went around.
Cycled back through about every 10 years. It cycled back through. I think it went through 3 cycles.
Yeah.
And it took out everyone who didn't have a natural immunity to it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I guess it didn't take out everyone on the planet. Not everybody got it. It was a certain percent of the population who even got it. There were plenty of people who never even got it. Like they never got it.
Even in places where it wiped out entire communities, it didn't take everybody. Like,
no,
for some reason,
there were some people who
were immune,
who never got it.
So my understanding, this is from me personally, because I know my heritage is English and Irish. So I have a natural immunity to it because my ancestors were survivors of it. So it's part of my genetic makeup. I think that's also why I don't get the flu, because I have a natural immunity to it.
Right.
I don't get the flu when I've never had the flu pokey. And I think the CV went through my house a year ago, and I had it felt like a cold for my whole family. And so I have the immunities to it. There's no reason for me to even consider getting the jab. But they don't test for that. They don't test for whether you have immunity or not. They just assume that everybody is going to get it and everybody needs the response to it.
Right.
The other thing that I saw a couple of days ago, and I'm sure that you saw this, is that they are not allowing people to donate blood who have had the arm pokey in convalescent situations. Did you see that? No,
I didn't. But what's really scary about the whole thing is, in the future, if you need blood and you get it from somebody who has had a poke, then you're going to get whatever horrible stuff is now in their blood. You're going to get whatever that icky, God only knows, GMO. They're basically becoming a GMO, genetically modified person. You're going to get that blood, and that scares the hell out of me. So the entire future blood supply is now all going to be tainted with all these people, because people could go, and people who are poor, who need money, will go and give blood to get money and say, "Oh, I never got one of those." And then they'll get paid to give their blood. And then all that tainted blood's going to be in the blood supply. And that scares me.
Or they're going to have to test it like they were doing with the AIDS virus, right? In the 80s and 90s, where they would have to test, even though people might say they didn't have HIV, they'd have to test every blood sample that comes through to show that there's no HIV in the blood. I think that might end up being that case, because I think they'll find that if you've had it, you can't donate blood. If you've had the arm poke, you can't donate. Right now, it's specific for convalescent homes.
So think about how scary that is, though, because let's say 70% of the population gets the poke. So that means very few people can donate. And then what if lots of people need blood? I mean, that's a scary thought. That's really scary. So we better start praying really hard, like really hard. for all of this.
The truth comes out before it gets too crazy.
Yeah, because otherwise it's going to be a problem. They're saying 50% of people have had the first one, and or I'm sorry, 50% have had the second one, and 70% have had the first one already. Yeah. And
now they're giving it to kids, so that
it's going to be, the fact, and that's what really blows me away. You sit here and you go, oh, there's these people called the white hats that are supposedly trying to save everybody. I have a hard time believing that, knowing that they're allowing children to be myrtleized like that. I mean, they're allowing, that. I mean, the fact that they're allowing that horrible thing to be given to the children so that future I mean, it's bad enough that these doctors are now all saying, I'm talking hundreds of them all over the world, are saying that their patients are testing completely infertile now. They'll never be able to have a child because they're mass sterilizing, which is what BG, you know who BG is. Mm-hmm. That's what he wanted from the beginning. He went and did it in Africa, and he went and did it in India, a mass sterilization of everyone using a poke, which he presented that kind of info to the Pentagon or whoever a long time ago. They've been planning this for a long time. The fact that they're allowing this to keep going and they're not coming out with the truth. They could have come out with the truth if they supposedly are the good guys. The good guys should know about this. They all know about it because we've got people like Robert F. K. Right. Jr. who are coming out and talk, against it. They know that they're bad. So why the heck are they not coming out on the news and saying, something, why is this not coming out? Why are they allowing all those children to basically have their lives completely ruined and never be able to have children? And, I mean, it's
I don't know. That's why I get frustrated too. I thought for sure the mainstream would be hijacked by now before it got to the kids. Mm-hmm. And so now I don't know. It's very frustrating, and it's difficult to stay hopeful, mm-hmm. knowing that this is being allowed to happen.
Yeah.
And how do we, the people, make enough noise to put an end to it? Because it's not going to there isn't a leader out there that's going to do this on our behalf. We have to figure out how to stop it ourselves.
But I'm not seeing large groups of people going, and doing anything about it. Honestly, but
there needs to be.
Yeah. And nobody's doing
enough to do something about it.
The thing is everybody's so much of a wimp. They have no warrior spirit, that they're just, they protest in the streets with signs. What does that do? What they need to do is they need to have literally, and this is going to sound awful, but this would be my warrior. If I was a full-on warrior and I had the protection, I mean, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to get my family in trouble and get put into the pokey or something like mm-hmm. that behind bars. But if I had if I was super powerful and had a lot of money and, what was really lived in some compound somewhere in the middle of nowhere with patrol people protecting me, I would take a whole bunch of people, take over the media station, mm-hmm. go in there, pull out all the news anchors, get on the news, take over the news and say, hello, everybody, guess what? You're all taking poison. I'd get on there and
why are the white hats doing it? I mean, that's kind of what we expected at this point, was for the military to go in and take over the airwaves.
Yeah, like the V for Victory guy. Remember that movie, the guy with the mask? It was like the guy that was in England, the guy with the mask. People wear it on social media. You see the picture of the mask, the guy with the mustache and the white face and the dark hair. There was a movie.
Anonymous?
Anonymous. Yeah, anonymous thing. So why wouldn't I don't understand. I mean, in that movie, a guy did that. He had his mask on. He went on and he took over all of the the news, he took over all the TVs everywhere. You know, you can do that. I mean, anybody can do that. It's not that hard to do it. So why has somebody with a lot of power is what I'm saying. It needs to be done by somebody who, because somebody like me, I can't do it. I'm just a housewife who I don't have any protection and I don't want to be hauled away, you know. So I would never do anything like that in a million years. But somebody who's super, super powerful, who has a lot of money, has, you know, people with protecting them, you know, lives somewhere off grid, whatever, could totally do that. And I don't understand why it hasn't happened. It just blows me away. They show it in movies all the time, you know, all their Hollywood predictive programming. Why doesn't that get, you know? Yeah. It just,
I don't know. And it's
just so frustrating.
There are good people who have that kind of money.
There's a lot of people who do, and that are very good, you know, people. And it's like, why don't even a group of those really good people with a lot of money get together and just take over, or, you know, whatever. I mean, there's even really, really super uber wealthy, good people who could literally go buy a TV station today if they wanted to and take it over. They don't even have to do it in a warrior kind of way. All they'd have to do is just buy the damn TV station and get it going. You know? It's not that hard. I mean, I know there are plenty of good people with lots of money. I mean, look at all these big time celebrities who I'm sure have a lot of money, like your John Voight and John Woods and all those guys that are on the side of the good side. You know, they made millions of dollars on all their movies and stuff. They have enough money probably that they could just go buy a TV station if they wanted to. You know, I don't understand.
You know, and they could, you know, make their own commercials, and, you know, because people fall for celebrities. They just do.
Yeah, I don't understand
why not create their own campaigns.
Why doesn't a bunch of these celebrities get together? I mean, like your Kirk Camerons and your, you know, Scott Baio. And I mean, there's a whole list of all these famous celebrities. The gal that was kicked off The Mandalorian. You know, that lady that was kicked off the Disney Star Wars Mandalorian because she was a Mr. T supporter, basically. You know, she was a WWF, whatever, I think, or something like that. She was one of those fighter, you know, women. I really like her. She's got attitude, but I forgot her name. I want to say it was Gina something, but I don't know.
I know who you're talking about. My daughter.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, my daughter told me about her.
Yeah. She was. They fired her because, you know, of her political views, of course. But the thing is that why doesn't all of those celebrities all come together? They could kick some serious butt, man. Seriously, it's like, why don't they do it?
Or all, you know, create a campaign. This is why I chose to not, right? Why not? They have the money and the power to be able to do that, and to
I'm just sitting here
your influence for good. Right?
I'm just so perplexed about why things are not happening, why this is just allowing to just keep going and go. I mean, the whole thing to me is just, I'm seriously stupefied by it. Like, I just don't even know. And when I ask my boss, Yeshua, his answer to me is, don't worry, basically don't be going there, that I need to really focus on helping everybody with the ascension. Like, he keeps telling me, put your nose to the grindstone and focus on people's souls, like on their souls and their connection to God. And that's what's most important right now.
Right.
And that's what he keeps, you know, he wants me to keep focusing on his teachings, you know, really focusing on what he was teaching when he was here and really connecting everybody up to source right now. But I'm not getting any answers about the political stuff, about that thing, you know, the pokey thing, none of it, zero answers about it.
So here's what I've been getting from, because, you know, Yeshua is one of my guides too, is that we need to focus on the world we want to create and not on the world that appears to presently be real.
Right.
And that's why we need to focus on raising our own vibration, because as more of us raise our own vibration, that will fade away, because it cannot exist in the presence of love. What happens with a lot of people is they get so caught up in what presently appears to be real And when they get caught up in the storm, what I was seeing was like yesterday was standing tall and strong within the chaos and within the storm. And so the storm is still going to be swirling around us, but as long as we allow ourselves to get caught up in it and get caught up in the fear and get caught up in the frustration and get caught up in those lower vibrational frequencies, it doesn't help anybody. It keeps us at that lower vibration. So we need to all be focusing on, yes, recognizing that that's existing. How can I use my own energy to transmute it? And how can we start creating our own system?
See, that's what he's been telling me the whole time, is to focus on raising my vibration and to helping all my clients raise their vibration. And that's what he keeps telling me to focus on. And when I say, but what about this other stuff? He's like, don't even go there. I don't want you thinking about it. I don't want you worrying about it. He keeps telling me that it's being taken care of, that it's basically being taken care of behind the scenes, that there's stuff going on behind the scenes that I don't even know about and should not even concern myself.
Get emotionally involved with it. Yeah. We're not intended to get emotionally involved with it. Just to, as I was saying yesterday, become a conscious neutral observer. Which is to observe it, but remain neutral about it, and not allow our own emotions to become caught up in it. And that takes a lot of practice to be able to just be a conscious neutral observer and to hold ourselves in neutrality as we see it happening. Because if we allow our own emotions to become attached to it and swirl up in it, we get caught up in it, and we are not helping. If we lower our vibration to participate in it. So, and that's what I teach. That's what I've been teaching all of my clients. That's what my transcendence process is all about, is teaching people how to transcend fear and how to raise their vibration to not get caught up in that and to be able to stay neutral through it. So that's what we need to focus on.
I'm a certified mindfulness instructor. So the biggest thing I teach people is staying in the present moment. And I do it all day long as well, but I'm also still a human, and I'm still, frustrated because I see nothing changing. So I want everyone to understand that even though I'm an expert in a specific thing, I'm also still a human too. And I still have human emotions and human feelings. And you can't just sidestep your emotions and your feelings and stuff them down and ignore them. You have to process through your feelings of fear and anger, because we're humans and we're going to have that. And part of being practicing mindfulness actually is running headfirst into your emotions instead of sidetracking, what we call, what is that called?
Bypassing.
Bypassing is the word. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. So instead of bypassing your emotions, when you're a mindfulness practitioner, what you do is you actually run headfirst into them. You fully engage with that emotion. You fully feel it. You fully process it. You allow it to rise up to the surface, and you process through it, and you accept it, and you claim it, and you say, dang it, I'm mad, or dang it, I'm upset, or whatever. And you really, really process it and feel it. And then you let it go after that. You don't just bypass and go, no, I'm going to be love and light. All these people who are like, oh, we're going to ignore all this. We're just going to do love and light. You can't do that. You can't bypass your emotions. You have to process through your emotions. You have to feel your emotions. So if I'm feeling a little angry right now because things aren't happening the way they're supposed to, I am human and that's fine, but I need to look at the fact that, yes, I'm angry, accept the fact that I'm angry, process through that anger and move through it, and then go back to whatever, the joy, happy, joy, whatever, because if you just try to focus on joy and happiness and you ignore all these other things, like being a little sad, being upset when you read something like they found 200 bodies or whatever it is, however many bodies they found under that school of children, you read that and you get upset because you're a human. You need to accept the fact, I'm a little angry about this. I'm a little sad about this. And you need to accept it, and you need to process through those emotions. You just can't ignore them. You can't, because here's what happens. My book that I just republished again recently is all about stress. It's all about stress management. 98% of health problems are caused by emotional stress. And when you bypass your emotions, that is creating the stress in your body. So having an emotion, what people don't understand is having fear or having anger isn't what makes you sick and kills you. It's holding it inside of yourself and not processing through it and letting it go and you know, feeling it, not feeling your feelings. When you take your feelings and you stuff your feelings, what it does is that goes into every cell of your body and your DNA, and it even gets passed down epigenetically through generations of your family as illness.
Yep.
So if you feel angry, you need to go, oh, I'm feeling angry. And then you need to process through that and do that and let it go, and then move on to the next, whatever, happy, joy, you know, whatever. But if you keep feeling angry every day, if you stay there, so there's two things. So number one, if you stay in that place of anger, so if I were to be angry every day, oh, I'm so angry my family took those jabs. If I were to just stay in that 24/7, that's going to make me really sick, very, very sick. Now, if I ignore the feeling altogether, that's also going to make me sick. So it's kind of like mama bear, papa bear, baby bear. You have to have that just right thing in the middle, that balance. So it's not ignoring it altogether, and it's not staying in it all the time. It's processing through it, moving through it, allowing it to happen, realizing it for what it is, like actually claiming it and saying, dang nabbit, I'm mad as heck and I ain't going to take it anymore, or I'm done. You know, I just watched a video with this gal who does Dolores Cannon's QHT or whatever that's called, the hypnotherapy, the quantum hypnotherapy thing. And she did a whole video about I'm done, where you write down all the things you're done with. I am done with the jabs. I am done with the C19. I'm done with the psycho politicians and the cabal, and I'm done with this, and I'm done, and write it up and do this whole ceremony, maybe burn it or, you know, whatever with your list, you know, to move through it. But just declaring I'm mad or I'm sad or I'm angry, just accepting the fact that you're having these emotions and claiming it, that is the most important thing. And I've been teaching people this stuff since 2011, or before 2011, actually, way before that, actually like 20 plus years. I've been teaching people about this type of stuff, of processing through, you know, emotions and whatever. And that's why my hair, I still have a full head of hair at age 55. And a lot of my friends who are 55 have no hair left on their head. It's all fallen out because of all the stress. You know, the stress will kill you. The stress makes your face, you know, people always say, why is it that you look so young? Like I'll have some 20-something-year-old guy hit on me in the grocery store because they think I'm 30-something. Why? Because I'm processing through my stress. That's the fountain of youth. That's why the book is called The Real Fountain of Youth, is because if you want your skin to stay looking young, stop stressing yourself out and start processing through those emotions, including things like being angry about the world situation. You have to process through that.
Yeah,
because
those emotions come up for a reason. So one of the things I explain to people is that when those emotions show up, they're there to show us something. Yeah. So you don't ignore them or stuff them down. It's like, okay, I'm feeling this. Why am I feeling this? Oh, okay, I see. I feel this way because, and then you learn the lesson from it. And then it literally starts to transmute itself. We have to take the time to stop and recognize it and accept it and see what it's trying to teach you. So I talk about anger a lot. So I compare anger with fire. And so fire, again, anger, if anger is aligned with love, it can transform entire landscapes. If it's aligned with fear, it can destroy entire landscapes. So fear to me is like fire. So it's like not fear, anger is like a fire in the heart, right? Spot fires are really, really helpful for creating change. So, and I grew up in forest, like you're in forest fire country as well. So you get this analogy. We would light little spot fires on the mountainside to gather up debris and burn in a contained environment and allow the fire to burn. If you don't do that, then those not lighting spot fires creates a an ideal, a prime environment for entire forest fires, as the spot fires.
Controlled burning, right? You're talking
right.
about
So
controlled
if you
burning.
do the controlled burning, then you control the environment. And a lot of times that heat is necessary for seeds to open up and for new life to emerge. So it isn't that fire is bad or that anger is bad. It's about recognizing it and using it as a force for good. So and that's also about not holding it for so long that it burns out your heart. That's a problem that people have, is they hold that anger for so long it actually just basically causes, energetic heartburn, and can destroy our entire bodies by mulling around in that anger for so long.
Yeah, heart attack.
It is great for creating change. If we don't hold on to it for so long that it destroys us and everything in our path. So like seeing that story about the children, I'm so angry. What can I do to make it? How can I do something on my part so that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, channeling it. I talk about that with my clients all the time, like when they're grieving or whatever, you need to channel it into something, and that's really important, get really passionate if it means taking up a canvas and some paint and painting your feelings or something,
Starting Mothers Against Drunk Driving, right?
Yeah. Going out and starting a revolution, going out and starting, some kind of a new nonprofit organization, going out and healing a whole bunch of people. There's just so many things that you can do with those emotions to channel them.
Right.
Really, really. Yeah.
So instead of stuffing them or letting them consume us, let's do something with them. That's why I said anger in the hands of love. That becomes courage. That can change the world.
Yeah.
So we just have to learn how to recognize it. And, I'm just reminded of one of the things I was taught growing up about being slow to anger. And then if you feel anger, to just pretend it's not there and to keep your mouth shut about it.
Yeah, that was the way we were taught.
In your body. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was growing up, I noticed everybody was being taught those same kind of things. Like, don't cry because it makes you look like a sissy. Like they tell boys, especially, oh, don't ever cry. You're a boy. You're not a man. You're a little sissy if you cry. And it's like, so you have all these men keeling over dead of heart attacks. People sit here and wonder, why is it that men have always had a shorter life expectancy than women? Well, going back to when they're babies, they're told you're not allowed to have emotions. Right. You're not allowed to feel your emotions. You're not allowed to process through them. Somebody upstairs here in my house who, he was raised that way, and, he won't listen to me, but
but they can end up then being explosive and diseased adults. And I say it that way because all disease is dis-ease, right? It's being out of our natural state of ease. And that when we stuff it for so long, and a lot of women do this, and this is kind of what I was told to do growing up, is to stuff all of your emotions, and that suffer in silence was basically one of the tenets for the women in my community. And so what happens with a lot of women is that they stuff it and stuff it and stuff it and stuff it until they explode, and they explode on the people they love the very most, rather than expressing it as they're feeling it, letting it out of their system, and then letting it go. So we have to be willing to let this stuff out of our system as it arises, and instead of letting it build up and destroying ourselves and destroying our family.
Yeah, like blood. So breast cancer, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, heart attack, high blood pressure, lung diseases are all caused by holding on to anger, shame, blame, grief, and guilt, because we hold all those in our heart chakra space, and it affects all the organs in the heart chakra space. So I notice all these women who've had really horrible lives who die of breast cancer. Like if you were to analyze every woman who's ever had breast cancer, you're going to find out a lot of them have either had extreme grief in their life, a lot of anger that they've been holding on to, or a lot of shame or blame or guilt, a lot of guilt because their family, the way they were raised, they felt guilty for every little thing. Also unforgiveness. If you are holding grudges against a ton of people for a lot of reasons, like even if you hold on to a grudge against these monsters who are killing the children all over the planet. You know, you have to let that go over to God, because they're going to get divine justice. They're all going to get their butt kicked. But don't hold on to a grudge against them, because that's going to make you have heart disease and breast cancer and all these terrible lung disease, lung cancer. All these things are going to happen because illness shows up in the energy body first, which is why when I scan people's chakras, I can tell them literally what kind of illnesses are going on and what the root causes of the illness. But it shows up in the energy body first, and then it goes into the physical body. So if you keep holding on and holding on and holding on, the longer you hold on, the more the illness is going to, it's like planting a seed of fear, and then the seed keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, you know.
Right. And it consumes the entire body.
It'll eventually consume the entire body, just like that fire you were talking about. If you don't do a controlled burn, it's going to consume the entire forest with fire next season. They just did a controlled burn here in my area because we get massive fires here, really, really bad. And so they did a huge controlled burn, and the whole valley was filled with smoke for a day or two. But I was glad for it, because that means that when, you know, fires may start, it's not going to burn down everybody's houses and, you know, things like that. So you know, it's the same with your emotions, you know, take care of it right away, snuff that fire out right away and deal with it. Don't just stuff it and forget about it and let it seed and burn inside of you. And it's burning away inside of you and burning out all your organs and all of your DNA and all your mitochondria and, you know, your telomeres of your mitochondria. I mean, everything, every little part of you, every cell in your body is getting affected by these emotions.
Right. And so that's a part of when we talk about raising their vibration, that's part of it, because a lot of people don't understand what raising their vibration means. And this is an example of what that is. It's like, okay, I feel what I'm feeling. I acknowledge what I'm feeling. How do I transmute it? And how can I see this from a more loving perspective? And learn how to transmute the entire experience so that it doesn't burn us out and burn out our relationships and everyone in our paths. This is all about being willing to do the deep inner work that's necessary to move to the next level. People think they can spiritual bypass. It doesn't work.
No. You have to do the shadow. Well, and that's why in that other book I wrote, I had a whole chapter about shadow work and dark night of the soul, because part of ascending is doing all your shadow work. You have to do all of it, and you cannot bypass any of that shadow work. I've been doing it for years and years on myself. I still have a few issues left that I'm working on. I'm not perfect. Okay. I'm a work in progress. We're all works in progress, but you have to continuously be doing the shadow work. You know, there's things that I do that are not so great. I will never be perfect. You know, I have faults, you know, or whatever.
I think, all my shadow work tends to be around codependency.
Yeah, I have that issue too, because I was raised in a codependent family really bad. And I get accused of that a lot by certain people. Oh, you're doing codependent behavior. And so, and also, you know, I mean, one issue I have that people, you know, my whole life since I was a child, and maybe it's from a past life as an actress or something, but I'm very dramatic. So I'm always having to rein in the drama because I can tend to over dramatize things. So that's like a shadow thing I'm working on to play stuff down a little more, not be so dramatic about it, you know, because, you know, I'm not perfect, but the point, I guess, is that in order to ascend, there's so many different things that involve raising your vibration. It's not just about listening to 528 hertz music and carrying around a tourmaline crystal or whatever, you know, in your pocket to protect, you know, it's not just about that.
All day.
Yeah. Meditating all day, meditating every day, just doing that isn't going to cut it. Okay. Right. It's a whole menu of things that you have to do, you know, to ascend, you know, minding what comes out of your mouth all day long, minding what you're thinking, focusing on positive thoughts, making sure you're drinking and eating what I call an Ascension Diet, eating healthy. So not eating McDonald's, which now they're saying has meat from humans in it. I mean, it's disgusting. So you don't want to be eating that kind of stuff, so taking care of the body, the temple of the Holy Spirit, taking care of, not just taking care of yourself, but also taking care of your family too, because the thing is that if your family isn't happy, then that's going to really lower your vibration too. So it's really important to take care of yourself and then your family first before everything. And I'll have people who will email me at all hours of the night, and I only get back to them at certain times of the day because I have a family, and I tell everyone I take care of myself, and then I take care of my family, and then I take care of everyone else. So if you're wanting my attention, my family is going to always come before you, somebody else, that's just the way it goes. Yeah. But that's all part of raising your vibration, making sure that you're doing all the steps, not just one or two steps. All the steps have to be done to raise your vibration and to ascend. It's really important.
Yeah. And so for me, my area of expertise is helping people uncover their unconscious fear-based beliefs. So a big part of the ascension is being willing to look at every single one of our beliefs, mm-hmm. and recognizing if they're fear-based, and they all have shadows attached to them. And being willing to what I call disbelieve everything we've ever believed, because mm-hmm. unless we're willing to change our beliefs, we're going to end up in exactly the same place. So Einstein, apparently he's been known as saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So I took that a step further, and I say the definition of insanity is believing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, because actions always stem from beliefs. So if you want the actions to change, you got to be willing to take a look at the beliefs that are behind the actions and change those, because nothing's going to change unless we're willing to sit down and look at every single one of our beliefs and see if they really do serve what's best for us, if they really do serve love, see if they really do serve the light, and be willing to look at them. And that is not easy. People do not like having their beliefs checked, but that's part of the process. So if we're going to move forward, we have to be willing to do that work.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I mean, that's true. Before you don't just do an action. I mean, unless it's like an automatic thing, like a fly is on your head and you swat it away kind of thing. But usually when you're doing actions, there's a thought that comes first, and the thought has to do with, like you said, a belief. So thank you for sharing that, because that's
and sometimes it's
really
layers
good.
Deep.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, okay, what's the belief underneath that? And then what's the belief underneath that? And what's the belief underneath that? And when you finally get to the very bottom belief, then you can start to see how those beliefs are layered on top of each other, and how that turns into, for example, in my case, codependent actions. What is the very, very, I'm finally finished with those codependencies. Thank God. That's really mm-hmm. painful to let them go. Mm-hmm. But being willing to get to the very, very bottom belief, and that starts to unravel everything else. But we got to be willing to go all the way down into the depths of darkness. As one friend of mine says, the best gems are in the shit. If we want to get to the really good stuff, we got to be willing to dig and dig and dig to find it. And sometimes that digging is not comfortable.
No, the digging isn't. And that's the thing, is when you start to look at your emotions, it's just like when I was talking earlier about facing your emotions and running into them head on, like the anger and the sadness and the sorrow and the grief and all these things. It can be really painful and difficult. Yeah. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun. And that's just the way it is. But if you don't do that now, the pain and the grief and all of it's going to be 100 times worse later when you're in the hospital on whatever, on machines and stuff, because you blew your heart out with all of this,
So that stuff just compounds and compounds and compounds.
Yeah, it compounds it's almost like when your trash compactor is over full, it's the same idea. You're filling it up with all the trash, and then eventually it breaks down. The trash compactor breaks because you filled it too full. So
I have a little thing that I do. You'll get a kick out of this. I have what I call my etheric field, which is a field of creation where I create energetically and then I watch it manifest physically. So in my etheric field, I have what I call a cauldron of transmutation. So all of these beliefs, doubts, worries, fears, I've done so much of this processing in my lifetime, there really isn't much left. So when something comes up and a worry comes up, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take that and I put it in my cauldron of transmutation and put the lid on it and just let it sit there, and it composts itself, because I'm not constantly wallowing it over in my head. I just take it and put it over here in the cauldron. My one therapist who calls it a basket, put your worries in the worry basket and then you dig them back out when you go to see your therapist again. It's actually a very common thing that therapists use. I just use a cauldron of transmutation because I found out what cauldrons used to be used for once upon a time, and they actually were, where they're called witches now, but at the time they weren't. It's where you just felt like where you made soup, like you put all the ingredients in there and just let it stew.
Well, everybody cooked in cauldrons back when, because they had big fireplaces, and then the cauldron is what they used to make all their dinner and their food.
Right? So you just take it, and so you just take all of the worries and all the stuff and you just put it over here in the pot, put the lid on it, and let it stew elsewhere. Right? And so then that way it's not being mulled around in my head. It's just doing its thing. But I have it in a cauldron because that's for me, that's where I turn it into compost that I birth new things out of. But it keeps me from mulling it over and over and over again, because that can make you sick really quick if you spend too much time in mulling over the things that bother you.
Right. Yeah, totally. I agree 100%. So your business is called Fearless and Free, right? That's the name of your business, or that's just the name of your program and your station?
That's the name of my brand.
Oh, okay. And you did that because your biggest thing is helping people transmute fear. So for any of you who are going through issues with fear in your life, you need to call Victoria, because she's an expert at helping you transmute all the fear and turn it into love and process through it. I don't do that type of work particularly with people. I mean, I do some basic kind of stuff with people, but not as intense as what Victoria does in the area of fear. So if any of you are feeling like, fearful about what's going on, we're living in really, really traumatic times right now for everyone. If you are feeling scared, you may need somebody to talk to, and Victoria is an amazing, loving, compassionate person to talk to, and she'll help you through all of that, processing through that fear. It's really, really important to do that work with somebody. It's really important also to know that you're not in this alone. Like, you shouldn't be doing it all by yourself ever. Like, I don't do anything by myself. I have counselors that I go to too, even though I'm a counselor. I have counselors, wise counselors and sages who I go to help me get through all my own garbage. Because I am a human still, even though I'm a teacher, I'm also a student, and as well. And so, so it's really important that when you're processing through all this, that you don't try to be the Lone Ranger, or a lone wolf and do it all by yourself. You need to call upon somebody for help, whether it's me, whether it's Victoria. Victoria is going to be the best person to see, honestly, if you have any kind of fear things going on in your life, because that's her thing and she's amazing at it. So, I just wanted to point that out.
A lot of these are fear-based beliefs that people don't even know they have.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that I specialize in as well is for people who have chosen to leave religion. And are still kind of grappling with the guilt and the shame and the fear and all of that they learned through their religiosities. A lot of the people I work with are people who are having their spiritual awakening and are ready to disengage from a lot of the fears that they were brought up with their religions. So that's really part of my area of expertise as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like looking at the time. It's like 1:39. I'm like, I got to go eat some lunch. My stomach is sitting here making all kinds of scary sounds.
Yeah, I forgot to look at what time it was when we got on the camera. But I think
we've been on for over an hour.
Yeah, it's probably time. I need to go feed my kids too. I can hear them mulling around downstairs. So this was a really, really good conversation. It feels to me that the people who are watching this particular conversation can walk away with some goodies on how they can begin to not be so afraid about what's happening in the world right now.
Right.
And that as we move forward, my understanding is that there will be chaos, that as this information
a lot of chaos
starts to come out, there is going to be chaos.
Yeah, there's going to be looting. There's going to be, I was shown I was shown it, but I also heard it, that there's going to, from other people, lots of other people, that there's going to be protests that make the other ones look like nothing. There's going to be riots. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be people, out there with weapons doing who knows what. I mean, it's not going to be pretty because
hopefully not. Hopefully not. I mean, that's one of the reasons that this information's been allowed to be slowly dripped into all the media and all the social media, so that when the truth does come out, it's not so over the top frightening. That's
well, I think when people find out that 900,000 children every year, a new 900,000 kids every year are being tortured and murdered and sacrificed. And when they find out about that, they're going to be pretty freaking angry.
Right.
And that's a lot of people would take they're going to want blood. They're going to want vengeance on whoever, they're going to want to find whoever's responsible.
Right.
So that is a possibility. I mean, you have to look at the reality of what's going to happen 5 steps ahead. If this comes out, what is the emotional reaction going to be? There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be really flipping their lid. The other thing is when the truth, and I keep telling people when we talk about the truth about the Bible and the truth about religion, and I always say to people, you don't have to believe me if you want to or not. I don't really care, because in the next 2 or 3 years, it will all be out there. And when people find out that the 3 major religions and the other one, Buddhism, was altered. I mean, it was originally a good thing, and then it's been messed with a bunch. But all of these religions have all been created, for nefarious reasons. When they find that out, they're going to be not only horrified and upset and disgusted that everything that they thought they knew and were raised, what they were raised with, all the ways, all their beliefs were all a lie. They're going to be filled with a lot of anger, and they're going to want vengeance, and they're going to want, a lot of people want vindication.
Well, there's going to be an uprising, and that's why we keep saying that we the people, it's time for we the people to create systems that serve the people. So there will be a lot of that, and because I've been teaching people how to free themselves from the religious guilt and shame, from their fear-based beliefs, from their religiosities, this has been my experience for the last 10 years, and I know how painful it is. How painful it is to face those truths. It's really, really painful. And so I think that we are going to start to see more and more and more of that as people have to face the truth that what they've always believed isn't what's true. And that's why it's really important for those of us who have already gone through our awakening experience to be able to hold the space for the masses when that starts to happen. So
right. And they're going to need something to replace that. And so one book that I think is good to read is The Law of One, because that's kind of the law of the universe. And it's kind of what all of the ETs out there or whatever follow. They follow the law of one. And so the people will say, well, if religion is bad, does that mean there is no God and blah, blah, blah? No. It's totally the opposite. There is a God. There was Christ. Christ came here, and he came here to teach. And basically the teachings he asked me back in 2011 to continue his teachings. Okay, so that is true. But the bad guys took what he was doing and all the apostles, what they were doing, and they twisted it and perverted it to suit their means. So it's not that religion is wrong and you shouldn't believe in anything and all that. It's that you need to go back to the real true roots. You need to go back to the truth, which is unconditional love, compassion, kindness. The things that he was teaching, that is what you need.
Right. So it's the difference between religion and spirituality.
Yeah, exactly.
So at the core of every religion are the same beautiful spiritual truths of faith and love and trust and peace and harmony. All of those are at the core of every religion. It's just the layers of dogma that have been put on top of that. So So as we peel off our own layers of disbeliefs to get to the core essence of who we are, we're going to start doing that with all of our systems as well, peeling off all of the layers of false beliefs to get the core essence. And the core essence of every religion is the same. It's spirituality. Mm-hmm. So when we are having an experience, a spiritual experience with the law of one, all of those other rules just don't even apply. They no longer apply. But it's a willingness to be able to get to the core of all of it and peel off everything that is not.
Right. And you know, the 10 commandments that were handed down to Moses when he was up on that mountain, I'm 100% sure that came from the benevolent ETs who were trying to help people to follow, because there was so much lawlessness going on. People were committing adultery and doing terrible things and stealing and murdering and pillaging and doing bad things. And I think that was some kind of ascended master or benevolent ET's attempt at trying to bring law and order to the planet. And so I think that there's precepts or things from the religions that are very good. Like there's things that came out of religion that are extremely, you need to pick the things out of the religions that is mutually beneficial to the entire planet.
Right.
Okay. And what's really cool is you can look at Islam, Judaism, Christianity, and Buddhism, and there are parts of every one of those religions that are absolutely beautiful, absolutely wonderful, and beneficial to everybody. You can take out the best parts of all of that and make it into one universal spiritual,
spiritual movement. Right.
For everyone, because it's not that they were bad. It's that, the people who brought the original messages, their message was totally distorted and corrupted by bad guys.
Right. So that's right. That's what I call peeling off the fear-based beliefs that have encapsulated the spiritual truths. We have to be willing to peel off all of those layers of fear-based beliefs that actually prevent us from having a direct connection to each other and to source, to God, and not allow all of the fear-based dogma to be what controls us, because those are all created for control. And we know that that's completely unnecessary. None of us need to go through a religion to get to God.
Right.
Because it is inherent inside of every single one of us. So I think part of what we're going to see happen, and why the awakening has been in steps and has been progressive, is because there will come a point when all of humanity is going to be facing it. And those of us who woke up early and who have been progressing through this ahead of time are going to be called upon to help the masses process it when the time comes. And I've been saying it to the light workers for the last year. It's like, hey,
me too.
This is what we've been practicing for.
Yeah, I've been saying that for 2+ years. Actually, I've been saying it since 2012, I think, 2011, 2012.
Yeah, I have too. And but in the meantime, we've just been practicing on each other.
Yeah, since 2012,
practice time is over.
Yeah, we've been practicing on each other. But what I also tell people is right now, I haven't asked recently what the percentage of the awake people is. Last time I asked, it was at 28%. And what I tell people is the 28% that's awake are all of the star seeds and, light workers that are all awake. And the reason that we woke up in the first part of that awakening is so that we can be the counselors and teachers to all the other 68 or whatever percent that's going to be happening over the hopefully in the next few months here. I mean, I'd really love to see. I keep trying to be hopeful that something's good is going to happen in the
there was something at the beginning of this year that said by August. So I'm like, okay, well, that's my next milestone. I hope something happens by then. So, but I don't know. Spirit just keeps telling me to trust the timing and that it is all very, very finely tuned and worked out. And we just have to trust the process, which is frustrating. And at the same time, we just have to keep doing our own work, doing our own inner work. And then how can we be of best service to humanity in the process? How can we use who we are and what we know and who we're here to be of best service to humanity rather than wallowing around in it, and willing to do our own work? And then how can we channel what it is that we're feeling called to focus on? How can we channel into something where we start to create our own systems and our own businesses rather than waiting for somebody else to fix them, just start it ourselves.
Right. Absolutely. Well,
we gotta go.
Now there's more time going. We got to go because we could probably talk for 500 hours. Because we have a lot to talk about, but and we're going to keep doing this for all of you until we don't have to do it anymore, honestly, because we're here to help you. And we know that these videos, I mean, I get hundreds of emails, literally hundreds of people thanking me for the service I'm doing and what I'm doing. Cause I'm taking time out of my Memorial Day holiday to sit here and do this because I'm trying to help you all. And so is Victoria. We do this for free. We don't get paid. I don't monetize my YouTube at all. I get $0 for any of this. I'm doing it to help you. And so is Victoria. So we're going to we will be here for you all. We are here to support you all. And you can reach, Victoria through her website, victoriareynolds.com, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Or me through mine, which is spiritualgrowthjourneys.com. Anytime you want to have a one-on-one counseling or, guidance session with either of us, or you need help. And just keep coming back here each week and checking us out. Hope subscribe, hit the like button so we get more people notice us on YouTube and we can help more people and spread the word.
Yeah. And that's really how the YouTube algorithms work. I don't know if people realize that, but the more people comment, the more people like, and the more people will subscribe, it actually bumps us up in the algorithms, which allows us then to more people greater service across the planet. And that's how it works. Right? We all lift each other up.
Yeah.
So if this is something that you feel inspires you and that helps you, please, share it forward so that other people also have access to this information as well. We don't change the world by keeping stuff to ourselves. It's like what I've been saying for years. This information sitting on my computer doesn't do the world any good. It doesn't serve the world unless I'm willing to put it out there. So when we talk about sharing it forward, it isn't from an egoic perspective at all. It's that this is how we change the world by having this kind of information made freely available to people so that we could all collectively as one humanity raise the vibration. That's how we create a new world. So,
Yep.
Well, Kimberly, we both have to go feed our families.
Yep.
And let's do this again. We have on Friday, don't we have our women's Ascension?
Yeah, actually next Friday, we're going to be doing our women's group, and we have us and Ileana, the Star Traveler, and Sherry Divband, who are amazing women. Yeah, we're going to do our women's roundtable. So we look forward to seeing you guys all next week on that.
Yes.
And thank you, Victoria, for doing this with me again. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Kimberly. Yeah. Oh, thank you. And we'll see you all soon.
Okay. Bye.